Israel has been preventing the entry of life-saving supplies into Gaza. The UN World Food Programme says no food has made it into the north of the Strip since the start of this month. In a statement, WFP says the north is basically cut off and we're not able to operate there. Without safe and sustained access, it is virtually impossible to reach the people in need. WFP has been able to bring in only 4% of the food needed to sustain 1 million people in Gaza this month. People have run out of ways to cope. Food systems have collapsed and the risk of famine is real. Let's speak to Bushra Khalidi about this. She is the policy lead at Oxfam and is joining us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Thank you for your time. Let's talk about the situation in northern Gaza first, if we can. I know you're in constant communication and coordination with the Oxfam team in the north. What are they telling you about the current humanitarian situation, especially in the Jabalia refugee camp?
So unfortunately, I was not able to join any of my partners or my colleagues on specifically Jabalia, Beit Hanun, and kind of the most northern part of the northern governorate. I was able to speak to my colleagues that are in Gaza City at the moment. They can see from their windows the smoke coming out of the north. That's how close they are to it, and that's how destructive the incursion on the Jabalia and the northern areas has been. Israel's operations have been. They can hear that their house is constantly shaking. There's very little food. They only have canned food at the moment. A friend of mine, actually, I spoke to, he's in Gaza City. He's not even in the north. All he has for the next 3 days is bread and 2 cans of peas, green peas, for him and his family. We're seeing the same images that we were seeing a year ago. We're seeing the same forced evacuations. We're seeing the same besieging of homes, of hospitals, of the refugee camps in the north. The pictures that we've been seeing for the last week have been absolutely horrifying and chilling to my core.
Right. And so, Bushra, you haven't been able to directly speak to your colleagues in places like Jabalia or Beit Lahia. But we have heard from various reports that Israel is telling people to leave these areas, but at the same time preventing them to do so. What more have you heard about that?
That's exactly the same reports that I've received from my colleagues that are in Gaza City who have family in the north, in the Jabalia area, that have been unable to leave their homes for days, and basically running out of food with no water, and they're unable to leave because they shoot anybody down that leaves. The evacuation routes and orders, I mean, as usual, they've caused chaos, they've caused confusion, and they've not been really respected. And that's been the case for these evacuation orders and these forcible displacement orders. This has been the case since the beginning of the war. They've caused panic, they've caused confusion, and they've actually killed people. Actually, a colleague of mine called forcible displacement orders a death march, because people don't know if they're going to survive evacuating or not. And most people, in fact, are choosing not to evacuate or leave their homes, and understandably so.
Yeah, indeed. And they're choosing to stay with, as you say, very little food or water left, because no aid has gone in for the past 10 days, at least, in northern Gaza. You mentioned that you have teams, Bushra, in Gaza City. What types of challenges are they facing right now? Are they able to assist people who've left places like Jabalia and who've managed to make it into Gaza City?
I'm really sorry, and it's absolutely unfortunate, and I hate having to sit here and say, no, we've not been able to help anybody in the north for the last month. We've not been able to enter any of our trucks into the north for the last 4 weeks. And that should be chilling everybody to their core as well. The fact that no aid has come into the north since the beginning of this month, and that organizations like ours haven't been able to deliver in the north, is unacceptable. It is actually a breach of our duty of care and our duty of being able to serve the most vulnerable and the most affected communities, we're unable to deliver in the north whatsoever. That is the current position, because we can't get aid into either one of the northern crossings, or we can't travel from the south to the north with the trucks that arrive through Kerem Shalom, because of Israel besieging the north and cutting the north off completely from the south.
So how are people surviving, Bushra, currently?
People are not surviving. People are very likely dying of starvation, as they have been from the beginning of the war. And people have also shown extreme resilience in waves of starvations and famines that we have seen over the last 12 months, eating animal fodder, eating bird food, eating donkeys and horses. The problem is that now we're talking about levels of destruction that didn't exist maybe a couple months ago, and so I don't know how people are going to survive. It's very likely that either people will die of starvation, will die in the massacres that we're seeing happen in the north, or will die, trying to evacuate to the south. Also, it's very important to note that many people are unable to leave because they have elderly parents. Elderly parents can't walk for 4, 5, 6 a whole day in order to seek some sort of safety that doesn't really exist in the entire strip either. And furthermore, they're not going to safety, and this is why they're not leaving their homes. People are ready to die in their homes, whether that's from hunger or from the bombs. People are resolute to not leaving their homes and not leaving the north, because there's no guarantees for them that they would stay alive or survive if they did.
Bushra, thank you so much for talking to us and giving us a picture there of the situation in northern Gaza right now, as Israel continues to lay siege on the north, on places like Jabalia and Beit Lahia. Thank you. Bushra Khalidi is from Oxfam, joining us there from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
Thank you for having me.